had kind of organizationally made a decision that the Victor fit wasn't kind of a good one. And so at that point, you know, what do you do, right? So then it became make a deal that has some upside. I'll walk you through, I think, what the upside is, and move on to the next stage, right? So from our perspective, we really like the guys in the deal. Kelly and Avery are both guys we've liked for several years, and then the opening up a spot for the current players on our roster, playing time opportunities, particularly for Kevin, was particularly, you know, was important. And so, yeah, so that was kind of the thought process was, you know, we made some game decisions about where we're going to go forward or not. Decision was made not. Then, you know, you're looking for it. And then we also got a swap out of Miami that we think could be material. And so there's lots of little parts to this deal that aggregated from our perspective into something we wanted to do. And that's why we did it. Yeah, for sure. Like, not different from Victor. Like, you know, we'll have bird rights for Kelly. And then, like I said, Avery has a team option. So we're trying to find good fits, and one of the advantages of kind of the rebuild construct we're doing is that, you know, I do think that there's a place for veterans on your team, not just this year, but going forward, stabilizing influences, helping your younger players develop in the right way, in a quicker way. I think having a good mix of old and young is actually attractive. It doesn't mean that these guys will be the perfect fit. I actually am very optimistic about both. Like I said, they're both guys we really like and have liked for some time, but you don't know people until you work with them. And so, so I'm looking forward to getting to know them, to working with them, to having them fit into this group, and you know, and then we'll make decisions at the end of that time. It's kind of how we do it.
In processes like this particular trade and some of the others, what is Tillman's role and input in these deals?
Yeah, I mean, no offense to my boss, but he doesn't really have one on a deal like this, right? This is like, I do my very best to be in constant contact with Tillman, telling him about the direction we're trying to go in and everything else. But like, and I want him to feel very, very comfortable about our processes, like how we're going about it, how we're thinking about it. Tillman's a deal guy like me. So from my perspective, like talking to him about our transactional process, how I'm thinking about it, the negotiation process, whether it's with one team or with 15 teams, like those are all the conversations we really have. And he's super valuable to me as a resource, as a super sophisticated deal guy. But like in terms of actual players, like, no, like he leaves that entirely up to us. And, you know, and I guess I would say, Jonathan, obviously, you know me pretty well, so you probably knew the answer to this question. I'm not the right guy to be a mouthpiece. And I know that there's at least some notion that in some organizations, that's how it works. That's not how our organization works. I mean, I wouldn't be good at that job. So yeah, as it relates to players, which players we're interested in, all of that, you know, that's what my group does, right? It's not just me, it's my group, you know, led by Eli, and that's what we do. And then, you know, like I said, I do think Tillman is an extraordinarily sophisticated negotiator. So I do tap that as to how I try and get somebody else to their max value or something else. But as to what constitutes value, as to what players we should get or not get, no, I mean, he's, in that sense, he's great, like from my job's perspective, because yeah, it's that's what we do. That there's a really clear line for us.
How would you describe your vision and your philosophy for this rebuilding process, and your anticipated or hopeful timetable for getting this franchise back at the level you want to be?
Yeah, like I think, well, let me start off by I think how we got here, right? Which is that like, um, we we tried to win a championship for like multiple years in a row, and we didn't, and we didn't worry about the future, right? And I actually, that's one of the things I've thought a lot about over the last several months is as to whether or not we should do that again, because you're always trying to learn. Like if you're, everybody should always be trying to learn in every job, and you know, I'm like completely unapologetic about that. I think that organizationally, for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, we've been all in every year. And given the players we've had, the place that our roster has been, the team construct we had, I think we did the right thing. And so that's how we find ourselves in the position we're in today. I think, you know, where we're at this year is kind of similar to where Golden State was last year. There's a consequence to those actions. If you go for it and go for it and go for it, if you're always maximizing this year and not looking 2 or 3 years out, there's consequences. And so I think we're living those consequences. So that's kind of, I know I'll get back to your actual question, but I thought that was an important point to make. In terms of how we go from here, I think actually I feel pretty comfortable that we like where we are in the beginning stages. I think, you know, we're going to take constant bets. I think that everybody does that. It's just the level you do it at, right? So we're going to do it. Not all of them are going to work out. To the extent that those bets involve future years, we have to be more confident than somebody who's just expiring, right? But I do, you know, I think in terms of the young players on this roster, we do have kind of a young core, along with John and Eric, a young core that we really like, of Christian and Jay-Sean and KP and KJ, you know, all guys under contract going forward. Really like those bets. And so because we do like those guys, we think we've seen growth this year. We obviously want to add to them, but it's not, from my perspective, I don't think we need to do a like a wholesale tank strategy like some other teams may have done in the past or maybe are doing now. You know, we've been ravaged by injuries this year. That just is. So our record, it reflects that. And so, you know, there's no guarantee that we won't be ravaged by injuries next year or the year after or whenever. Anytime a team takes injuries the way we've taken them, there's going to be consequences. But in terms of the rebuild, I think our goal is going to be competitive while at the same time really giving our young guys an opportunity to flourish. I think you can do both at the same time. Getting back to like Kelly and Avery, that's kind of what we like about those guys, is we think that they can be stabilizing and help the growth of our young players, help us be competitive. And then actually both are young enough to fit within a time frame. So
Rafael, how much does the pick swap with Oklahoma City factor into some of the day-to-day decisions that you guys will be making the rest of the season?
You know, to date, it really honestly hasn't, right? Like, to the extent that it did, it was pushing us towards putting together a team that we thought would be competitive, which we thought we did. I mean, honestly, like, and we were until we got blitzed by injuries. And so on a going forward basis, I think probably not a lot, because you know, like we hold 1 to 4. So you know, the pick kind of is what it is. And we'll just go about it. But we're not really, again, it was one of the big reasons why we kind of why we've done the deals we've done and the way we've done them. We don't really want to be a team that has to depend upon being bad ourselves to ultimately compete. We feel as though we've given ourselves a chance with a bunch of picks, unprotected picks and unprotected swaps on a going forward basis, where we're going to have some lottery ball chances. And so I think, we're interested in competing and figuring out what we have. And we do have a young core that we're excited about. And so, yeah, I mean, the pick is swapped. It is what it is. Again, it's a consequence of the very first thing I said, which was kind of our decision to really, really push for a championship. And, and I would have done it again. So it is what it is, and we just go from here.
Prof, obviously you made the Harden trade primarily for the picks. Now you know how things went with Oladipo. I'm wondering, how do you feel about the return for that trade at this point?
I think one of your colleagues texted me like the day after the trade, and they said that they would evaluate me in 2027, and I told them that was too early. They should do it in 2030. So, I think again, like I think we felt at the time that we did the best deal for the franchise possible. That's obviously that's my job, right? So, so I did it. But particularly given the types of things we got back, like, yeah, like it feels like you can't possibly know how you did for multiple years, like, I don't know, 3, 5, something like that. But I feel good about it. I think, yeah, like I think I do feel good about it. You do every moment, you do every deal at the moment you do the deal. I would for sure 100% do that deal again. Like, again, you guys don't have the advantages of knowing everything that I know, but there's literally no part of me regrets doing that deal. I have not second guessed it for a moment. So, I think, again, a lot of what I said about being in a position maybe to not have to be bad, that deals there's some other things we've done to help that too, but it's primarily that deal that's allowed us to say, hey, we want to compete on a slightly quicker time frame. We're not going to go down this path of trying to intentionally lose games for years on end. And so, yeah, I guess that's my response.